Welcome back, it's Brad here. Today I'm really excited to share with you this AI agent that automates point of view faceless YouTube shorts, and I'm going to be using a tool called n8n. Now, this tool is created by developers for developers, and I know that all the software engineers that follow this channel know how hard it is in the current tech market to get a job. So we as engineers need to diversify and incorporate as much AI into our workflow as possible. And this is exactly what this channel is going to be focusing on into the foreseeable future. So let's dive into this awesome design. So what we have here is an input, and we're going to be using Google Sheets to grab our ideas. We're going to generate a prompt from these ideas. This is going to generate an image using an AI model called Flux. Then we're going to generate the video using an AI model called Kling, generate the sound with 11 Labs. We're going to stitch all the videos together. So essentially you can either have like a 5-second video or a 10-second video and stitch 2 together, 15-second video, stitching 3 together, etc., etc. And then we're going to publish it to YouTube and create an email confirmation here as well. And the videos we're going to be generating are going to look like some of the viral content that you see on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and we're going to be replicating that. So here are some of the videos that we've already created. So pretty cool. That's what we're going to do. We're going to create these videos. We're going to publish them to YouTube, and we're going to create this as a cron job. So as a scheduler. So it's going to post at regular intervals during the day. So if you want to follow along with this, I will leave a link in the description that has access to not only this template, but also this n8n workflow, which is going to include all the information you need to hook up the APIs that we're going to be using. So we're going to be using OpenAPI, this API, which includes Flux, Kling, 11's Lab, and also setting up CreatorMate, which is going to be stitching together all these videos. So if you want to download that, check out the link in the description. So let's first look at our system design requirements. So the purpose is to fully automate the generation and publishing of AI generated POV video content. So we're going to start from a simple topic in a spreadsheet. So this is going to be our Google Doc, and it's going to end with those really nice photorealistic videos that we're going to publish to YouTube as short form. In regards to the high level flow, so how we're going to achieve this, we're going to have the Google Sheets as the input. We're going to generate a prompt with AI. We're going to generate an image, a video, a sound. Then we're going to upload these to a persistent form of storage, so Google Drive. Then we're going to render this using CreatorMate. So we're going to stitch videos together to make videos longer. And then we're going to publish to YouTube, update the Google Sheets columns with relevant information, so whether it's been published, and send an email confirmation to ourselves notifying us of the models we use to generate this video and also the video link to YouTube. So in the most basic sense, we're going to have this image generation, video and sound generation, stitch it together, publish to social, and confirm the emails. And then here's a deep dive of the flow. Now this will also be added to the documentation package that I've linked in the description. So let's start building this out. So the first thing is going to be the input. So we can hit the plus button, we can type in schedule, and we'll have a schedule trigger. In terms of the intervals, this is going to be days between intervals 1, trigger at midnight, and leave this as 0, right? So we can leave it as the default. Hit back, we zoom in here, we can hit this plus icon and attach Google Sheet. So we want to get rows in a sheet, right? Because we're going to be pulling information from this Google Sheet, which is going to contain the relevant information. So the title, the ideas, the captions, this can all be generated within ChatGPT. And then in regards to the fields that we're going to be updating throughout this flow, we're going to have production status, which is to do and complete, published status, which is pending, published and failed, and then processed, posted to YouTube, true or false. And what we're going to do throughout this flow is we're going to actually generate the video and add the video link right here. So in order to link Google Sheets, we first need to create a credential. And this is probably the hardest part of hooking up APIs, especially with Google. You need to use the Google Cloud Console. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to do this from scratch. So here I'm in the Google Cloud Console. Firstly, we need to create a project. So navigate to this section up here. We can create new project here. I'm going to use the n8n test that I've already created. So I'm just going to click on that. If we type in Google Sheets up here, this gives us access to the API. So we're going to hit select on that. Right here, as you can see, I've already enabled my API. So all you need to do is enable API, which will be a button around here somewhere. And then we can look at the manage section. So firstly, let's go into the OAuth consent screen. We want to go into audience. If we scroll down, as you can see, I've entered test users, and we need to specify this for n8n. So I'm going to be using this email throughout this tutorial. So all you need to do is add users, specify the email that you want to use, and hit save. Once that's done, we can go back. So the next step is to add the credentials. So let's select credentials here. As you can see, I've already created a few credentials already. If we select create credentials here, we want to be creating this OAuth client ID. So application type is going to be a web application. We're utilizing n8n. I'm just going to leave this name as the default. You can choose whatever name you want. And the most important part of this is to create an authorized redirect URI. And for that, we're going to head back into n8n. We're going to grab this callback. So essentially, this URL needs to be pasted in to here. And what this is going to do is it's going to call back once the user has been authorized to n8n. So n8n will then have access to the Google Sheets. If we hit create, as you can see, we have been provided with the client ID and client secret. So this is basically the username and password for us to access Google Sheets via the API. So let's copy these and add this into our n8n workflow. So the client ID goes in here. Remember to keep these private. So the client secret should be kept private at all times. I'm going to delete this once this video is over. Then we can sign in with Google, select the Google account. Now, if you didn't provide the Google client, the test client, as we did before, you will run into an error at this stage. So remember to do that. I'm going to be using this account. Press continue. Now we have the permissions that we can provide to this API. I'm just going to select all here, click continue, and we have successfully connected to n8n. Go back. Now we should have access to the document. So we have POV AI ideas. This is where you want to be using the template that's provided within the link in the description. Now, when you upload those documents to Google Drive from the link in the description, or you could create this by yourself, this is going to be stored or saved within Google Drive as an Excel file, in which case you need to save it as a doc. Otherwise, you won't be able to see it within n8n. So we can select our document. Let's choose the top one, select the sheet that we're going to use. So it's going to be sheet 1. And then in terms of filters, we want to look at production status. So production status is either complete or to do. We want the first row we find that is set to do. So add a filter, production status, add the value in. This can be fixed. We don't have to add an expression here. Let's add an option. So return only first matching row. Because say, for example, you have hundreds of ideas down here. If you don't select that, it will add all of them within our workflow, which we don't want. So let's test this step. As you can see in the output, we have the row. So the view is insane. You are scaling a steep mountain trail, and that's this row. Great, let's move on. So now we need to generate the titles with a large language model. So let's select LLM, basic LLM chain. Let's rename this to generate titles. Now in this left panel, we have the previous node's information, all the information from Google Sheets and the trigger. So we want to select define below. Now in this, we want the ideas from Google Sheets. So we'll drag and drop that in there. But we also want to sanitize this data. So we want to remove any double quotes that are at the end of the strings, because otherwise when we pass it into one of the models further downstream, so say like creator-mate, it will throw an error. So what we can use here is regex. And what this bit of code does is it basically says, if there are double quotes at the end of a line, sanitize it, clean it up, remove them. We want to select a specific output format, and then we want to add a prompt. So yes, we can use system. In terms of the message, we can select expression, and paste this value in here, which is a huge prompt that you can get via the link below. And what this is doing is it's fine tuning this model to provide us with valid titles and removes any negative or harmful words. Now for this chain LLM, we also need to specify a model and an output parser. So I'm going to be using OpenAI. We can leave this as GPT-4o mini. In terms of the credentials, we need to create this ourselves. So if we create new credential, so what you can do for that is navigate above to the documentation, OpenAI API key. So you need to create an account with OpenAI, navigate to the API keys, create a new API key, n8n test 3, leave it as default object, create secret key. So we can copy and paste this now. You'll also need to top up your billing. So if you go into the API platform again in billing section, you'll need to add credit within this. Otherwise this is not going to run. So back in the model, create new, paste in the API key and hit save. And as you can see here, we get a 200 success message. Let's update the output parser. So for this, we just want item list output parser. So let's select that. In terms of options, we want to select number of items, and we're just going to be using 1 for testing here. But this number is going to indicate how many videos we're going to create and stitch together. So in this case, for testing purposes, we're just going to choose 1. We can go ahead and test this step. And we get our prompt back. Now let's use an LLM to generate the prompt, so OpenAI. So let's select message and model. Again, we can use the account we just created because it's the same API that we're going to be using. The resources text, message and model. From the list, we can choose our model. Let's choose 4. If you want to improve the output, say in a production environment, you want to update this to the most advanced OpenAI model that you have access to. And in terms of the prompt, if we select expression, open this up and paste in this information. Okay, so this isn't being recognized, so we're going to remove that and we're going to pass this in and we're going to update this to the first. Perfect. Simplify output. Everything looks good here. We can test this step. Also, if you want to speed up workflows, you can pin this. So we can pin the data so that we don't have to run this again. But as you can see, we have the content So this is our prompt that we're going to be using to create the image. So in order to create the image, let's type in HTTP. We're going to be making an API call, so HTTP request. Let's rename this text to image. This is going to be a post request because we're going to be posting our prompt into a new model. So the platform, the URL that we're going to be using is PI API. Authentication, we can leave this section as none because we're going to be adding in the API key. We want to be setting the headers because this is where we'll add the API key in. Here we want to add X API key. This is the platform. Once you've signed up to PI API, you'll need to add some tokens, and then we can navigate to settings, API keys, and this is where you'll want to create a new API key. POV test. Perfect. So now we have the API key. We can view it, we can select it. We're going to go back into our workflow, paste the value in here. We do need to send a body in this case because it is a post request. We're going to be selecting raw from this because we want raw data. We need to specify the content type as application JSON. And this is all specified within the documentation found within PI API. Right, so if we're going to run API here, you'll be able to see what we need. So as the header parameters, we need to provide X API key. And then this is what we can specify within the body. So let's go into the body, let's select expression, open this up, and we want to paste in this expression. So it's going to be using the content. We're specifying the model, which is Flux1, which is our model here. Width and height. This is standard short form width and height. That looks good to me. Let's test this step. So this is an asynchronous process. So as you can see, the status here is pending. It's not complete because this needs to go off to an external API, process the request, and send the data back. So this is going to take a little bit of time, and we need to wait for that to be processed. So let's reorganize this. Let's bring this down here. What we're going to do is specify a wait. So we're going to say wait. It's going to be like 3 minutes. Let's rename this to wait 3 min. Rename that. Now I'm going to quickly update this to seconds and test this step. It should be processed by now. So the text to image should be processed, and we should get back a URL for that image. So I'm going to wait 3 seconds. Here's the data. If you want to check whether it's actually been completed, go back into the PI API Flux model. We can look at task history. And as you can see, this one was processed just now. So we've just polled this, we've just tested this step, and we've got the information from the previous node. So now what we need to do is actually get that image. Right, so it's going to be another HTTP request, and it's going to be to the same API. It's going to be a GET request, and the URL is going to be this. Right, so we've got the task, but we need to specify what task it is that we want to grab. So if we come into data, which we grabbed from the previous node, the wait 3 min, and we just drag and drop task ID. This is going to give us this endpoint, so we can open up this expression here, and we can see here in the results that this is the task ID that we want to grab. So that's looking good. We want to set headers, right, because we want to pass in the X API key, which was specified in the documentation up here. So X API key. Let's paste that in. And because this is a GET request, we don't want to be sending a body. Now we can test this step. Right, we have a successful output. Let's scroll down. We should be able to see the image URL. So let's copy and paste this, and this is what we have. Okay, great. So now that we have this image, I'm going to pin this again so that I don't have to rerun this. So hit P on the keyboard, P on the keyboard. Now from this image, we want to generate the video. And before we do that, let's rename this to make this more readable. Get image. Okay, HTTP, rename this image to video. This is going to be a post request. It's going to be going to the same API as before. We're not setting the authentication here, we are setting it in the headers. So let's do that. X API key, grab the value. We're going to be sending a body here. So for this, we're going to be using Kling's model. If you go into video models, Kling, let's go into run API. And here, again, you're going to have more information on how to construct this API post request. So essentially what we want to do is update this to raw again. We want to type in application JSON. And for the body, we're going to be passing in an expression, which is basically just our way of saying this is going to contain JavaScript code, so dynamic codes. So this is the standard mode, so we can update this to Pro if we need to. So down here, right, we have 2 versions, standard and Pro, and we're going to keep it at standard for this video. So we're getting the prompt that we generated, and we're also getting the image URL from before, and this is going to create a video from this. Okay, that looks good. This is an async process again, so it's going to take time. But if we hit test step now, as you can see, it's pending. We can come into the PI API, click on Kling, task history. Let's refresh this. And as you can see, we have one video being processed. So let's go back, let's clean this up. Here, we want to specify another wait. So let's type in wait. This is going to be for around like 6 to 8 minutes when we're running this in production. So let's just say 8 mins. So rename that. Let's update this to 8, and then let's select min. Oops. And then let's select minutes. We don't really want to test this yet. We're just going to wait for this to process. Once that's processed, I'm going to update this to seconds so that we don't have to wait 8 minutes for this. But once that's been processed, we're going to do the same as up here, but it's going to be get video. So if we just copy this down, link the two nodes, let's select this, update the name, get video. And like we did before, it's going to be the exact same as this. And because this is an expression, we're dynamically passing in the task ID. The task ID is going to be the ID of the video generated. So that's going to pull that, passed in the API key. This looks good. Let's unpin this for a second because this is new. Okay, so as you can see, the video is still processing. We'll give it a few more minutes. Okay, that's finally processed. This took around, say, 4 to 5 minutes, and this is by far the longest process in terms of the API calls that we're going to be creating. So now that's been processed, let's just test this step. It's only going to be 8 seconds. And this is just going to pull information from the previous node to this node. Perfect. Then we can actually run our get video API call, and we should have a video URL. Let's grab this, paste it in. Okay, so that looks good. And just so I don't have to run this again, I'm going to pin these. Now we want to be generating the sound. So let's create another API call. So this is going to be text to sound. Let's rename that. In terms of the API call here, this is going to be going to a new model, which is 11's lab, and it's going to be at the endpoint sound generation. So if we go back, go up to the documentation. So we need to create an account within 11's lab so we can sign up at this link here. In terms of getting an API key, let's select that. So if we go down to the workspace down here, select API keys, and here we can generate a new API key. Create. Let's copy this to the clipboard. Let's go back to our API call. We want to set this in our headers. In this case, it's going to be XI API key. So always make sure to check in the documentation what the name is. Then we can pass in the value. We're going to send the body here, and also I need to actually update the method to post. And we're going to do the same as before. We're going to specify this as raw. We're going to do application JSON. So this is just saying, look, we want to be able to use JSON, so JavaScript object notation. We're going to hit expression here, open this up, and we're going to paste in our JSON object. And as you can see, this expression here is in red, and that's because we can't locate this. And the reason why is this is called generate prompts. And in our flow, we didn't update the name because it's still OpenAI. So let's go back into our flow. Let's scroll up. We're going to have to rename this to generate prompts. Right, and this should dynamically update. So let's go back to our expression. And as you can see, generate prompts is now being successfully pulled. Okay, that's looking great. Let's test this step. So now we have our output in binary format. Let's restructure this. So what we want to do now is save this binary format, and we can use that in Google Drive. So let's say Google Drive, and we want to upload this file. So we're in the Google Drive, we need to create another API key, right? So let's go to Google Console, doing similar to what we did with Google Sheets. We're going to type in Google Drive API. We're going to enable this, give it a second to run and process. Once this is done, we'll have access to the credentials. Go into credentials, let's create a new one. And let's just call it OAuth Client ID. And it's going to be web application, web client 3, that's absolutely fine. Do the same as before, add the redirect URI. So let's grab this, paste that in there, click create. Now we get the client ID and secret. Let's copy and paste these in to n8n. Client ID. Perfect. Let's sign in with Google. Select the account we want to sign in with. Continue. Select all for permissions. Click continue. Connected successfully. Now that we've done that, we should have access to the Google Drive, in which case we want to update the file name, right? And this is going to be the task ID. So this is what we want to upload. So we're going to be uploading a file, right? So the operations upload, the resources of file. It's going to be data. And this is going to be the task ID. And we need to specify which parent folder we're going to be using. In this case, create a short form sound folder. Now that that's done, we can hit test step. Okay, it looks like it's been saved. Let's just check our Google Drive to make sure. Okay, that. Go into Google Drive, short form sound. So we're looking for 6D. As you can see, it's been stored successfully. Now, just to make sure you have access to this when you pull this information, we want to go ahead and share this, right? So we want to say share, restricted, general access. We want anyone with the link. Hit done. This means that it'll have access further downstream. And before I forget, let's update this to upload sound to Drive. So now that we've generated the titles, we've generated the videos, and we generated the sound, we want to merge these together to create clean, readable JSON that we can use downstream. So let's select the plus, select merge node. We want to combine these, and we want to be combining on position. We're going to select 3 here. We want the titles, right? So we're going to link this. We want to also include the video and the sound. So if we select this, we hit test step, we're going to have all that data available to us. And let's rename this to merge video content. Now we want to sanitize this data. We want to clean it up, and we can do that with code. So let's select that node. On once for all items is good. JavaScript is good. Then we can just copy this in. And what this is essentially doing is getting all the scene titles, video URLs, sound URLs, by mapping over each item within this, grabbing the text data, grabbing the video URL, and the web content link. So this is all going to be from the previous merge video content node. So let's test this step. And as you can see, we have all the data. Now, if we didn't initially add this in, this connection here, within this, scene titles would be equal to null. So it wouldn't be available to us for use downstream. So remember to make that connection as well. Now we're going to stitch videos together, because essentially what we want to do throughout this process is create multiple 5-second videos. But those individual 5-second videos aren't good to us. So we need to stitch them together to create longer short form videos. So let's go ahead and create a HTTP request. Let's rename this to render video. And it's going to be a post request. And it's going to be to Creatimate API. And this is found within the docs at the top of the workflow. We want to set the headers again. So we want to specify an authorization header. So this is going to be a bearer token instead of XAPI key, because this is what the documentation says we need to provide. So let's head over to Creatimate. Once you've signed up, you'll enter the dashboard. You want to click on the ellipsis here. Project settings, API key, click to reveal, copy and paste that into our workflow. And we need to specify bearer before this. So it's going to be bearer, space, and then our bearer token. Okay, we also want to specify content type. Content type application JSON, so we can utilize JSON information. We're going to be sending a body here because it's a post request. For this, we're going to leave it as JSON. We're going to be using JSON, and then we're going to be using an expression. So let's open this up. And then for this, we need to create a template, and we're going to do that within Creatimate. So let's go over to templates, create a blank template. And what you want to do is open up this code editor and paste this information in. Now this is found within the docs at the top of the n8n workflow. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a template for 2 videos that are going to stitch together. And then we can select use template. Click API integration, and what we need from this is the template ID. Let's paste it in, right? And we just want to update this to be dynamic. And again, this replace here is using what's called regex. So it's updating these strings and cleaning them up just in case there's extra quotation marks, in which case it wouldn't be valid JSON, and this would throw a 400 error. Take this last one, for example. If we get rid of the regex, look what happens to this last text. There is an extra quotation here, and this will throw an error. So if we run this, JSON parameters need to be valid JSON. So if we come in here, update that, add the regex in, extra quotations are gone. We can close this down, we can test this step, and it executes the node. So we can go back into our template. Let's close this. Let's go back. Let's go into API log. As you can see, a new one is rendering, and this won't take too long, but it is an async process, so we need to specify another wait. Let's say it's 2 minutes. So we'll rename this to wait 2 mins. We're going to leave it at 2 seconds for now during this testing process, because we're just going to wait for this render to complete manually. Okay, that succeeded. Now I can run this. We have all the data from the previous node. So we've rendered this video. Let's have a look and see what it looks like. So we have this URL here. Looking good. So we have combined not only the video, but also the audio and the text over the top. Now what we need to do is update our Google Sheet. So update row and sheet. We can use the same account as before. We're going to update the row from the document, POV ideas, sheet 1. And the column we're going to match on is the ID. So let's look for Google Sheet. And we just want to drag and drop the ID in there. And let's update this to first. So it's going to look for the first item with the ID of 6. And what we want to update is this video link. We want to actually add the link we just generated within render video in here. So let's drag and drop the URL in here. If we go into the Google Sheet, scroll across, this is currently blank. And when we hit test step, navigate back in here, we have now added the video link to the doc. The next step is to post this to YouTube, and then we want to send a confirmation link to our email. So in order to do that, we need to get the video. So this is going to be a GET request. Let's rename this to GET vid. We're going to be using the Google Sheet video link. We don't need authorization here. We're just grabbing it from Google Sheets, which we have access to because we shared it. We have the binary data now, and this is really important. This needs to be binary data in order to make a request and publish it to YouTube. So let's reorganize this. Next step is to create a YouTube node, and we want to upload. So upload a video. Again, for this, we need to create a credential. So let's go into our Google Cloud Console. We want to type in up here YouTube API. So it's going to be the data API. We want to enable this, then hit manage. We can utilize one of these credentials. I'm going to use the one that's already within n8n, but you can create your own. So what's the title going to be? If we look for title, we're going to use Google Sheets title, right? This is the title we want. So we can drag and drop that in there. Specify your region. So United Kingdom. Category name. Let's just say it's entertainment. Data. We're going to add an option. I'm going to add a description. And we're going to add caption as our description. Okay, that looks good. Let's test this step. Okay, so we've got an error 400, and I know what this is. So we got a 400 error. And up here, I've added a comment. So the 400 is based on how we run n8n. So if you copy this, close down the n8n local server, run it this way, run this again, and you get an upload ID. Now if I navigate into the YouTube channel, we have two videos being processed right here. The first one was the error. The second one is going to be the one that we have just processed. So we'll give this a minute to upload. Whilst we're waiting for that to upload, we can focus on the next section. So here what we want to do is create a conditional render. So we need an if statement. So basically, if this upload ID is not equal to undefined, then we know that we have uploaded this successfully, in which case we want to process a true response. So test that step, obviously it's going to be true. And what we want to do here is update the Google Sheet. So Google Sheet, update row and sheet. So we can leave these as is. Select our document, select the sheet. We're going to be using ID as well. And what we want is information from this Google Sheet. So just to make this more readable, let's update this to update video link. We're going to update this to update posted to YouTube. And within this, we can grab update video link, and we're going to grab the ID here. Update that to first. We also want to be updating production status to complete, publish status to published, and video link to this video link here. Let's test this step. Okay, if we look at our doc, production status and published status have both been updated correctly. Posted to YouTube is still false, so we need to update that. So posted to YouTube, we need to set that to true. And then we can rerun this. And now it's set to true. Okay, so that's working correctly. Let's back out of this. Now we just want to send a confirmation link to our own email. Gmail, send message. Perfect. We need to create an account. So do this again within the Google console. Gmail API. Okay, so enable this API. Go into manage. Follow the same process as usual. Select all. Okay, let's back out that. So it's going to be a message. We need to send this. So create a send operation, and it's going to be going to BRSM DSA 2. So you can put your own email in here. New AI. So subject, new AI video posted to YouTube. We want to set the email type to text, add an expression to the message. Then we can just paste this in. Auto-generated message, new video has been posted to YouTube. We're going to specify the title from the Google Sheets doc. Here is the link. So we pass in the URL plus the endpoint, which is going to be the upload ID, which we got from YouTube here. So this value right here. And then we need to specify the image generation model, the video generation model, best bot. Perfect. Let's test this step. That is sent successfully. So let's check the email. New AI video posted to YouTube. We can see the link here. So this will show the video. So we have the image, we have the transcription, and then there's also sound attached to this as well. So that's working as expected. We can copy both of these. Update the false endpoint. we want to change this. We want to change this to publish status, right? So update, publish status. We aren't updating production status here. We are updating publish status. This is going to be set to failed. We can remove this. We can remove this, and we can test this step out. Right, node executed successfully. So essentially, this isn't fired because this value is always true. And then finally, we need to update this. So let's update this to send error email, link to our account, which we just created, BRSM DSA2, subject, new IO video, error. And then we're just going to update this to failed to post to YouTube and keep everything else the same. And that is the workflow complete. So let's tidy this up a bit. And there you go. All that's left to do is set this to active. Go into this model here, this item list output parser. We want to update this to 3. So this is going to generate 3 videos in one iteration of this workflow. We also need to update the render. So rather than having 2 videos within here, we're going to update this and have 3. So we need to add audio 3, video 3, text 3. So as you can see, we've updated the expression to sounds URL 1 and 2. So this is part of the array. So when we run this again, there will be 3 instances of scene title, video URLs, and sound URLs, which we can pull from. Make sure that this is JSON formatted. Then when you run this time, it's going to generate a video that's 15 seconds long. And this is going to run on a cron job, as we specified this is active. It's going to run every midnight. And that is the entire workflow to create this faceless POV AI agent. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.